Mike McCool here. I'm in the Royal Examiner studio. With me today is Dr. Chris Ballenger. Chris is our superintendent of Warren County School System. Welcome to our community. First of all, well, he's been here a month, and
Yes.
and he's jumped into the fire. But first of all, I want to congratulate you on how well the graduation ceremonies went. I think your team put together a plan that made everybody happy.
Well, thank you, Mr. McCool. And it was a team effort, and they spent countless hours on putting that together for the families to make it unique for families and for students. So, it took a lot of planning and a lot of extra time to put all that together, and they really went above and beyond.
They did a good job. I noticed there was some comments from our Board of Supervisors, Dolores Oates, and she was on there. Dolores used to work for me, so I'll give you the disclaimer there. So, when I say I know her real well, but, she was she had her baby as a senior, and she was so concerned about graduation. And at the last meeting, she apologized. She said this was the best graduation she's ever been to. And she said we should do it this way all the time. She loved it. And, I didn't see any negative comments from people. Watching them there, they were happy. They were you guys went overboard with the pictures and just being able to get everybody together. And before it was 2 tickets. They could bring 2 or 3 people to now they had their whole families. And I just felt everything was treated and was received really well. So your team did a great job, and of course we live streamed it
Yes.
under your direction. he said this will be live streamed. We tried to talk him out of it, but I promised the people that we were going to live stream it, and
That's great.
he lived to his promises. So I hope that's a sign of a lot of things to come. So what we want to talk about today is what the plan. You were
Yes,
at the
sir.
board meeting where you introduced it. You did it. We have it posted on the Royal Examiner. But there's a lot of questions and people are unclear. So we want to kind of talk about exactly what our students are going to be expecting, and parents, what they're going to be looking for this school year. Because I know the goal is to give our children the best education they can get in Warren County. So
Correct. Yes, sir.
why don't you outline it?
Okay. Well, with our instructional plan, we have 2 models that we're going to use. We're going to have the hybrid and a virtual. So parents will be able to choose either an in-person option or a hybrid or the virtual. So for those that are concerned, they can stay home. We'll provide the instruction through our learning management system and provide a Warren County teacher that's certified in that area to provide the services. You hear a lot of blended and flipped. Those are educational terms, which basically means that there may be a blended. I may have students in my classroom. I may have students online at the same time, and I'm teaching both of those in a synchronous environment. Or flipped means that it's really more student led with student paced, and the teacher is there more as a facilitator with, yes, still the instruction, still the in-person piece. There's not a lot of change with that. It's just it allows students to kind of move at their pace, and still we understand that, yes, we still will need to follow our pacing guides and various things, but for some of those students that want to move on and move a little quicker, that we can accommodate some of those. And when you look at our two schedules we have with pre-K through 5, 4 days a week, 1 virtual. All the research shows that with elementary students, it's vital to have those foundational skills built. And so, we just wanted to be able to bring those students in and build those foundations, because if we do not lay that foundation now, our house is not going to be stable later on.
Exactly.
And so, then with our middle and high, they will have 1 in-person day right now and 4 virtual. Now, the beauty of our plan is we're going to review this plan every 2 weeks. So every 2 weeks, we're going to look at transportation, cost, room within the buildings, and just other factors that we have to consider.
You know, things are going to be.
Yeah, and so it could be that after 2 weeks, maybe we are bringing in a larger number at the middle or the high school, depending upon those factors that allow.
Might have 1.5 days
They
for some
they-
classes.
It could be. It could be that we increase. Now, also with some other populations, with our English language learners or our special education population, or students that may not have internet at home, that may need to come in, we're going to look at them on an individual basis, and according to, let's just say for special education, for example, if the IEP team determines that student needs to be in more than one day, then we will make that accommodation as determined by the team to try to bring those students in to provide a service.
So parents, you just don't have one plan for all. You're really going to be looking at each individual student, kind of, or groups of students,
Mm-hmm.
and then breaking it down, even if you have to individual students, to try to find a plan for them.
Right, and Jen, just hopefully that as soon as we can, try to get all of our students in, but we have to follow the mitigation strategies.
Exactly.
And there's those documents that we've all talked about, the recovery, redesign, and restart
Right.
plan with the Virginia Department of Education.
And they're up to change all the time too.
They are, and that's the funny thing, because just last week we received a new Virginia Department of Health interim guidance, and so in the meeting with the state superintendent that week, they went over it, and that was just introduced to us to here's the new interim guidance that we're going to follow, and that's where they broke it down into the three categories of low transmission, moderate transmission, and I believe it's severe transmission. I can't remember what the
They got an acronym for it.
I just remember it. If it's green, you're good. Bring everybody back. If you're yellow, follow phase 3. And
If it's red, stop.
yeah, red, go virtual. So
Right. Right.
yes, and so with where Warren County is in Region 4, we are in a low transmission, and so according to the new guidance, with that low transmission, we should follow phase 3 guidance and mitigation strategies, and so that's our plan.
Well, it sounds like you have a plan at least, and I think that's what was concerning some parents. I've read some comments on our social media that they're like, well, what's the plan? What's the plan? And people just kind of want to know. This fear of the unknown is what gets people unsettled. And I do hear some comments, I think we're going to have an issue with, kids at home. I asked my daughter, she's a teacher, and her husband's a teacher, and they're all virtual at the moment. They're in Prince William County. But like I said, if push comes to shove, the 12-year-old will watch the 9-year-old, and which will watch the 5-year-old, I guess. And so kids are going to be latchkey kids until they come up with a plan.
Well, and we know, our plan is we're pushing out as quickly as we could, because we knew that in this time that we're in now, there's no way to avoid with what the guidelines we have to follow, childcare. And
Right.
we understand that can be an issue.
It is an issue.
I have 2 children of my own. Now, of course, for me, they're both able to be on their own. They're of the age to where they could be at home by themselves. But I understand that childcare is an issue, and we wanted to try to get our plan out as early enough so that parents would be able to try to come up with a plan to help them work through
Exactly.
this school year right now, and until we evaluate everything again in 2 weeks to see if we can increase and take that burden off. But we're also still going to work with our partners for after-school care and various things like that. So a lot of those partnerships that have been developed in the past, we're still going to maintain those, to still provide those services to our families.
Well, this situation is affecting all of us statewide, countrywide, and so as an employer, I'm not going to be, it's not going to be just one person. It's going to be all my employees and I have school-age children. So we're going to see that problem, and I'm sure that plans will be put together. Every company's going to come up with a plan because, people will have to work. Maybe they have to take off. They're going to have to work less hours. but industry will come up with something that'll work, and so people are not going to be just them. They're in with everybody else has got the same problem. So I think that'll be addressed, and it's kind of scary when you're that one person that's got a 5-year-old, but I think it will be addressed, and we'll come together and come up with a plan that'll work. One thing I wanted to ask about the instruction.
Okay.
Are the teachers going to be basically providing live instructions in the classroom, and people at home on virtual will be seeing live instruction and can converse with the teacher?
Okay, so there's a couple of models that we're looking at. One, again, that's that blended
Right.
that you're talking about. So in that model, if I am the 6th grade teacher and I have half of my students are in person and half of them are at home,
Right.
then yes, the expectation would be that I'm going to have my 20 to 30 minute lesson live and in front of a camera, to where those students will know my time slot. They can log in for the instruction.
So this will be going on at the same
time as the
right,
yes,
at the
yes,
live, right,
yes.
right.
And so now of course those students they will not be able to see the rest of the class,
Right, right.
because the teacher is the focus.
Exactly.
And the instruction. It's not the class, it's the teacher. And so we will make sure that teacher is in focus, to where those students can get the instruction. Our goal is to record those quick lessons, and then post them on the LMS. And that would be for the students that are in class that maybe they need to go back and maybe get a refresher, or if you had some students that maybe they were not able to be online at that time.
Exactly.
Now that lesson that was taught live to those students at that specific time, now they can go back and listen to that live, or that recording.
Sure.
Now the other model is looking at various things within with our employees. There are certain cases to where if we have to give some variance to people coming back in because of health issues that just will not allow them to come back in, then the goal there is to look at that population and say, okay, well, instead of having this blended model, if we have teachers that are certified and can do this, then this group of teachers will be our virtual teachers to all of our virtual students, while now the classroom teacher just has to focus on the students that are in the classroom.
Right.
And so there's 2 different models that we're looking at right now, and as we work through everything, we'll kind of develop that.
Well, when I ask you about the recording, because I know that in my days of younger children, it was always good to be able to have that VHS tape and they hit that rewind. What did she say? Rewind,
Yes.
And which you don't always have in the classroom. Sometimes, you raise your hand and there's things going on, and so there are advantages. Some we're gonna put the positive spin on everything here. So there's advantages of having these recordings to go back, because a lot of parents I know. One thing is teaching estimating and rounding. We just call that round the numbers up. Now it's got a new word and a new rubric and everything else. They call it all the plans.
Yes.
We just said, "What's your plan?" Now they got a name for all that stuff.
Correct.
But we tried to, well, they got the right answer, yeah, but they didn't go through the right process. So I think they sent a note home one time to my wife: "Don't help your kids anymore on their homework."
Well, and there is a study out there that basically shows us that live instruction, whether it's in person or on video, that is the best way for students to learn. The second best way is through that recorded lesson. Mm-hmm. And then actually the third is through an app of online,
Right.
through a smartphone or something like that.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
those are the top 3 ways that are best learning environments for a virtual student. And so
every
we
time-
wanted to employ at least the top
First
2.
top 2, exactly.
To make sure that we're hitting those 2.
When people complain about it, I said, I did this by correspondence course, where you wrote it in the book, mail it in, wait 2 weeks for it to come back. So this is before internet. I am old, so older than I look, so yeah, it's, you got to make the best of a situation. And it's good to hear that the school board, the school system has a plan. They're reviewing the plan. and they're going to make the plan work. I mean, we're not just going to sit back and forget it. We're going to address things as they come forward. So I think that should ease the mind of our parents, Steve. And I'm sure we'll have some complaints about it, but we're going to. I know you're going to address them.
Well, and we'll do the best that we can, and that's the main goal is, making sure that we're providing a good quality service to our students and to our family and to our community. And right now, yes, we have a lot of guidelines that we have to follow and limitations, and we're doing the best that we can. And everybody within the school system we're doing the best that we can, and we plan to do the best that we can. Yeah, as an educator, we hold our students close to our hearts on a daily basis, and we want to make sure that we give them what they deserve. And yes, it's going to be challenging, and we understand that, and we'll just have to work through it. And we just ask that parents work through it with us and understand as we all tackle this together.
And if they have a concern, let someone know. Just don't harbor it, and let it fester and make you aggravated and mad and don't know what to do. Share that with the staff. I think that I know you'll be there to help people get through it, because we're all going through it. I mean, it's not just school; it's work, it's school, it's everything. It's our whole livelihood is upside down. So we're all going through it, and I think we'll be like Walt Mabe says, our chairman. We're stronger together. So
we are, and we have to pull together as a community.
Exactly, and I think we will.
I think so too.
I think so. I think it's great. Again, talking to you. I know he's always available. He's busy. So in a couple weeks, let's get together again and see how that first day went. One thing I will say, I was kind of surprised, because I know how the bureaucracy works, but you were able to relocate your professional development days to you front loaded them.
We did.
And explain why you did that.
Well, one of the reasons we're bringing in a few new LMSs, learning management systems. So most schools are comfortable with Google Classroom, and that's because, one, it's a cheap option, and before this pandemic and before the school closures, there were not a lot of teachers that were teaching with a learning management system. Everything was in the classroom. They had no need really for the learning management system, and so Google Classroom was, of course, a great option, and it still is a good LMS. But now that we're pushing that down to not just our middle school but our elementary, it's not a good platform for elementary. And so we needed to look at other platforms that would give our teachers the resources and prepare us for if we have another school closure. If, say in October or September, Governor Northam issues another school closure. Well, we want to be able to continue the instruction on a system that is going to be interactive for the teacher and for the student. And so we are bringing in 3 additional LMSs at various levels. So Seesaw will be the learning management system for our pre-K students. So, those students that are online, or if we have to close for some reason, they will be able to work through that. That's an interactive management system. Then we went with Schoology, kindergarten through 5th grade. Again, that is geared more towards those students at that level. Now, again, it's, I need to preface this with that even though teachers created stuff in Google Classroom, they can still bring all of that over into this new platform. So it's not that they have to go in and recreate everything. It just gives us a little more consistency with providing a platform. Then 6 through 12, we are actually bringing in Virtual Virginia. We're part of their expanded program. A lot of school divisions in the Commonwealth are joining this, and so you have Canvas as the platform, but now what Virtual Virginia has done is they've brought in all of these great teachers across the Commonwealth, and they are creating these lessons. And so it's a lot of those classes are being built, and they follow the standards for every subject level, and they will be a year course. Now that teacher can still bring in resources, They can move things around within the LMS, delete sections or pull out that they want to pull out. But again, it just gives our teachers additional tools to provide a great learning experience.
So during this 12-day period or whatever it is, they're going to be learning these systems and getting their training on the front end instead of scattering a day here, a day there, a day that.
Yes.
One thing that I thought was great, no snow days.
Yes, and that would be the goal, is that, going forward, we, because with your Chromebooks, even if you have limited access of internet at home, a certain amount of data can be downloaded weekly to those Chromebooks. And so the goal would be to come in, if you're on a Monday, download that entire week. And then if we have a snow day, that can be an instructional day. Everybody's still teaching. You have your activities to do that are due that day. You finish those, you complete them. And it could be actually, it could be counted, because as long as everybody is working through the LMS. And, it doesn't work if you have some that are and some that aren't.
Right.
So everybody has to be active.
Right.
And everybody has to be counted in order, to really kind of look at that. So
Well, one of the things you stressed at the meeting was this is real school.
It
And
is.
this is not like it was in March and April.
No, sir, it's not.
So you're going to be graded, and your attendance is going to be taken. So
That is correct.
and we're going to have quality education going forth on the thing. This is not playtime. So
No, and in March, we understand with the closure that, it was just to help and enhance, to keep track, because everybody thought it was going to be for 2 weeks and
Sure.
we'd be back in, and then they kept extending that window, and, we were, advised not to take any grades. A student's grade could only increase, it couldn't decrease. Well, now, we have to provide new instruction. So now, if students do not do the work, then they may not get the credit for the course.
exactly.
They may not be able to transition from one class or one grade level to the next. So, it's not, and that's for those that maybe think that it's going to be like last
right.
spring. And so really doing the work, taking the attendance, and that's going to be in a lot of various ways. It could be through synchronous, asynchronous. It could be just checking students that are staying on task and turning in their assignments on time and completed. And
Use my favorite phrase: inspect what you expect.
that's right. Yes. So yes, that is the expectation going forward with our students. And
Well, we want to know that this online stuff is serious. So, and it's what you make of it.
It
if you
is.
put the time in, you'll get the reward.
it is. I mean, and that's like everything in life. If you put the time into something, then yes, you're
Yeah.
going to get the reward. Not just in education, but in life itself.
And as you get older, I think I shared with you the other day, my daughter finished her degree online, finished her master's online while teaching school and raising 3 kids, and so you can do it and get a quality education. And I know
Yes, sir.
if you have somebody behind you pushing you, her husband pushed her through the thing, but that's what parents do. And to make sure that you follow up with things going on. And like I say, we'll reevaluate this in a couple weeks, and we'll see how it's going, see, how it'll work. I think if people get in there and treat it seriously, it'll work great.
Well, one great thing that I love about the virtual side is I think it's going to enhance teacher and parent school community engagement, because that interaction will need to be there on a daily basis. As I go around to my listen and learn events at the schools, I talk to the teachers about, we're no longer just a classroom teacher. We're now a classroom teacher and we're a virtual teacher. And I tell my administrators, we're no longer just a site principal. I'm now a site principal and a virtual principal. So roles are ever changing within the school building for this year. And so we just have to be flexible enough and understand that things that we may be called on to do are going to be different. And I like that, because it gets people out of the old rut
Exactly.
and makes us think outside of the box. And I'm not saying that for all teachers and or people
Sure,
in general,
sure.
but I think in education, if we're not changing on a yearly basis, then we're stagnant. And we need to be able to progress, because as well as I do that education today is not the education that we experienced when we went
No,
to school.
no.
So now
I
you're a
think-
little earlier than I was.
A lot earlier.
So, but even from your time to my time, it had changed a
Sure,
little bit.
sure. I can remember even when my parents, they had an 8th grade education. That's like college today. I mean,
Yes.
they did things and worked and traveled and, won the war and raised families and built a great infrastructure in this country. And most of them had an 8th grade education.
That is
They were lucky to have a high school education.
Yes.
And so they just seemed more mature then for somebody. When I look back and look at things, I can remember when I was in 8th grade, I remember high school. Boy, they're just so old, and they had beards and mustaches. I don't know. Nowadays, they barely have any fuzz on their face, and they're.
Yes. Yes.
I know it's different. But one thing I think that's great about this virtual is that when you mentioned the self-pacing, I think this is challenging students that need that challenge or wants to increase and take on these other lessons that are available. They'll have these things available to them to maybe go a little more direction this way or that way.
Well, and that's one good thing about the LMS, and not just for your virtual students, but even for your in-person students. That teacher in that classroom can augment a student's lessons and only assign specific things if they want, and push out to certain students,
Right.
which can give them an extra boost. And
I-
so that's what I really like about this learning environment. And so our goal is from day one, and I'll just kind of give you an overview of a day, but as students arrive at school, the goal is that there will be an employee out there, probably a teacher or somebody that will be with the thermometer taking their temperature, and then they at the elementary they
Ask them the 14 questions. You've been out of the
Yes.
country.
well, we're going to ask our parents to do that at home before they bring them.
Right.
So they're going to do the evaluation at home. Our employees will again go through the evaluation and take their temperatures at home and just verify that
Sure.
yes, we're good. The only thing that we will do when they show up is we will take that temperature, because we're going to ask our parents to help us out with making sure that they're following everything else,
Right.
or asking those other questions.
Sure.
Because as well as I do, sometimes those drop-off lines can get pretty long, and if
Yeah.
you extend those lines, it's going to be running down onto the main
Right.
street somewhere.
School will be over before you get it
That's
started.
right. Yes. So just taking the temperature, and then as the student enters that building, they're going to have a face covering on to enter the building, and when the student at the elementary level gets to their classroom and they're seated at their desk, then they will be able to remove that face covering. We're going to encourage students to wear their face coverings all times, but we understand at the elementary level it's going to be difficult. But if a student wants to wear that face covering all day, they can wear that face covering all day, even while they're at their desk. But we are giving them the flexibility to remove it, as long as they're in that
Keep their social distance.
the confines of their desk. But once they stand up and they step outside of that bubble, the face covering has to come on, and anytime they transition, that face covering needs to be on. And then of course even at the elementary, so a student goes in for instruction, they're there in their classroom, their lunch will be served, they will still
So they're going to eat
have
lunch in the classroom.
They'll still have lunch in their classroom. They will still have music, they'll still have the art, they'll still be able to go outside. There will be some outside activities that students will, it's of course smaller groups. We will not be able to play on the playground because you'd have to clean it between each student or each group. And that's just one of those mitigation strategies that we're required to do. So we'll do different activities with our students and to keep them active and engaged. And then, of course, when they come back in, that face covering will need to be on. And when they exit the building, then that face covering, as they're going to mom or dad's vehicle or grandma or grandfather's vehicle, whoever's picking them up that day, that face covering can come off as they exit the building. And so, but it is encouraged, and we understand. But then at the 6th through 12th, we are requiring them all day, from faculty, staff, and student, throughout the entire day, just for safety, and they're there that one day. The high school, those students will be transitioning every hour. So there will be some interaction, and we can make directional pathways in some of our buildings. And so even though I'm at this classroom, I may have to walk around the whole square to get over here to my next
like
class.
Martin's.
That's right. That's right. So you just we can make and just divide that up to ease the flow, and then of course
You're gonna paint the yellow line down the hallway.
that's
there
right.
you go.
Yes, with the arrow. So so their lunches will be similar. Some of them may have to go pick their lunch up, then come back to the classroom. But we have to avoid those large congregate settings. One of the examples they gave was, yes, students could eat in the cafeteria, but you have to space them 6 feet apart, and everybody has to be facing the same direction. So our tables are set up with benches on both sides. So you can
Exactly.
only use
One side.
and you would only be able to put maybe 3 people at one of those big old large tables.
Exactly.
Sometimes only 2, if depending upon the table size.
You
And so-
mentioned that because I think that's the thing. Some comments were coming up that people don't. Well, how come they can't do this, and why? It's all about the spacing and the size of the classrooms and
It is.
the kind of tables and chairs that we have.
It is, yes. Kindergarten and pre-K, you typically would have those big, long tables that were, you may set 5 or 6 students at the table. Well, now they each have to have their own individual. They cannot, we cannot put all those students at a community table anymore. And that's the same way with lunch. And so there are a lot of things that we're having to change, and just for the safety and because of guidelines. And we're going to do the best that we can.
And the buses are the same way.
Yes, buses. You take a
A
77
lot of this
passenger-
is all really geared towards transportation. I mean,
It is, and that's why we have some schedules that are different. We have 3 elementary starting at 8, 2 starting at 9. And again, that comes back to transportation and the number of students that you can now put on a bus. Take a typical 77 passenger bus that you may be able to run out to Browntown. You pick up a whole busload of students and bring them back in. You may have 60 students on that bus. Well, now you cannot do that. You may be able to get 20 to 24 students on that bus. So now that same run will need to be ran by 2 buses twice to get the same number of students into school. And so that's why we had to stagger schedules, because if I'm taking a group to Ressie Jeffries, and it's taking, instead of having one bus run this route out here and one bus run this route, well, now both of these buses are having to run this route twice, and then they have to go out to this other section of the county to get this other group. So we're having to double up on a lot of things just to allow to get students into the buildings.
well, we appreciate everything you do. We'll keep everyone posted as we go forward. We'll get back together in a couple of weeks. We'll see how it went, see if there's any changes,
Okay.
see if the governor has given us some new guidelines. All of a sudden they get dropped on you with no notice, and you have to comply. So we'll keep our viewers and readers abreast of what's going on through our, as well as our social media, and people can check back with us, and also check your school websites.
Yes, sir.
You post things on there, and we'll try to keep an eye on that too and get it sent out to our subscribers. And so again, appreciate everything you do, everything your team has done. I know it's been a lot of work. I've been over to the school here lately, and I can see everyone busy. So.
Yes, and schools will be pushing out information. I know we are developing some surveys to go home to parents to make sure, again, if they want the virtual or the in-person option.
Right.
And so I know elementary, believe we're going to try to send that survey out today. Some of them might have sent it out yesterday, but that will be going out. We will be getting information out from the principals, so parents can expect that. You talk about schedules, talk about strategies, mitigations, just everything, and just start to be able to deliver that information that everybody's been asking
Right.
for.
And one thing you want to stress that please respond to these surveys and questions and send them back in, because all the data makes a big difference when you're making these decisions. Because you know, when people, I've read some comments, well, I didn't send it in. Then all of a sudden you're basing your decisions on the information you had, and now all of a sudden 50 students show up and
We're not prepared for them.
You're not prepared.
Right.
So that's why please respond to these surveys and questionnaires that Dr. Ballenger and his team send out, because it'll just make everything work a little easier, hopefully.
Hopefully.
Well, again, Dr. Ballenger, I really appreciate you coming in, talking to us, keeping us informed, and all the great things I know you have planned. I've heard a lot of things going, and I've heard no negatives yet. So that's chalk that up. That's pretty good.
Well, we'll do the best that we can.
I noticed you don't have to worry about losing your hair. So
I do not. No, sir.
You lost that in your last job.
Yes.
So we'll talk about that in our next time.
All right.
All right.
That sounds great.
Thanks again. I
Thank
really
you.
appreciate it.
Thank you.